So often it's difficult when you're in the heat of an IEP meeting or any kind of meeting and you're discussing your child's needs. You don't quite know how to say it without sounding insulting, and you're getting a bit frustrated. So these are what we call our assertive statements or sentence starters. So if you agree with disagree with something that someone is saying, you can say, in my experience, or that hasn't been my experience. And those are really powerful because they're talking in generalities and you're talking about your experience and with respect to your child usually. When the meeting is going off topic, most of us will have had the experience of we've only got a short time for the IEP meeting, and suddenly we're talking about something that's not on the agenda, and it's not on your agenda, and it's taking a lot of time, and you're worried about when things are not going to get back. So you can very politely say, I know how busy you all are. Our time is limited, so could we just go back to the agenda because I would really like to make sure that these issues are dealt with. If something is put on the agenda at the very last minute that you're not prepared for and you need to do a bit of homework on, you can say, could we defer that issue to another day, to another meeting? Because I really want to make sure that we can discuss the issue of placement or his need for an assessment, or that was the topic of today's meeting. So I'm happy to meet again, but this is the agenda of the meeting, and I really would appreciate if we could deal with that first. Setting a deadline. So if people say, well, I need some time to discuss, I need to think about it, you can say, when could I expect that decision? This is very important to me, we're very concerned about our child. When can we expect that decision? And obviously you're not expecting it tomorrow, but you're asking them when they can provide it for you, and then you make a note of it and you follow up, that whether or not you've had a response by then. If you're not able to fully discuss the issue, then to ask for another meeting. The parents have a right to request a meeting to have issues addressed. So, this is an assertiveness quiz. So, imagine you're at a school meeting to discuss your child's needs and educational plan. Which assertive response would you make, given the day we have spent together? So, what would you say when someone at the meeting says, there is no money? Your choice. I can't believe anyone would say something so stupid. That's choice number 1A. You must be mistaken. There's money for non-essential programs of choice. There must be money for this service so that my son with a disability can receive a basic education. Or C, well, if they didn't pay you and all the rest of those teachers so much money, then my child will be able to get services. So, I think given, if you've all learned today from anything I've said, B is the closest, right? And I probably would take out you must be mistaken and put in something like, I understand your position, but given that there is money available for essential programs, for non-essential programs of choice, I think that, one should consider whether we couldn't make this essential service, for example, speech-language pathology, a requirement. And if you can't make that decision, who is it that I should talk to about asking for the support that he or she needs? Or this one, you'll need to be patient. There's a long wait list for assessments. So here are your choices. I'm tired of waiting. Give it to me now or you'll be sorry I ever darkened your door. Or read my lips, I will sue. Look, I've got 2 A's here. Should be C. I've already been waiting for 10 months for my son to have a psychoeducational assessment. District policy says the student must have an assessment within, however many months of referral to the district office. In fact, I'm not sure how often district policy actually states that, but you should see what the policy is, right? But you need to, don't allow yourself to be sucked into the things that we often want to say from the heart. which is number one. I'm tired of waiting. Give it to me now.
Well, it's also don't just listen to the placations.
Yes. It's also don't listen to the placations. This is another one that our families often hear. Be grateful your child receives what he does. If we give him more, then others will have to do without. Yeah. So here are your choices. It's not my fault those other parents don't fight you for services. Not a good choice.
Did you try that?
The service you're providing doesn't address an important need of his. So, we talked a bit about the need for social programs for children with autism. It's critical to their diagnosis, right? It's something that looks like a soft option. If a child who was unable to walk was being denied a wheelchair, it's pretty obvious that they require that. A child with a social communication disorder who requires specialized help in that area, it's harder to make the case because we can't see it, even though it's apparent in his behaviors that he's struggling to know how to interact with his peers appropriately. And the other A in the choice, who cares about the other kids? Give my child what he needs now. So it's important to, give a measured response and then follow up. Because, if every parent accepted that there is no more new money or there is no more money and, what about the other kids? If we all accepted that, children with special needs wouldn't be going to school. It's actually, that argument means that somehow this ceiling for funding has been laid down not by a government making policy decisions, but comes from much higher. Well, we think it's a political decision, so obviously it's one that families can question. So now it's your turn to create your own responses to some predictable comments. So here's one of the ones I'm going to give you. Do you expect us to change the whole system just to accommodate your child?
Yes.
No, I just merely expect you to make a policy change in this particular instance.
Or how about this? How about changing the policy to accommodate all children, right? So there's another one. So we don't provide social skills training for children with autism in this district. What?
Yeah, I would say that the social skills deficiency is a core component of their diagnosis, and that it is essential that it is addressed, and it's addressed in an environment like a school that has that unique mix of other children and adults, and it's a great environment, and so it's it really should be a given that
And
that
what
is
about
done.
looking at school district policy?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I guess, yeah.
Okay, good. We don't allow behavior consultants to attend school meetings. Note your child is in crisis at school, and we're not seeing any progress, and the challenging behaviors are getting worse. So what could you say in that circumstance?
I'd probably come prepared with that court case.
Yeah.
And show that to them that, whatever their policy is, they don't want to be in contravention of court orders.
Yeah. So here's the law, here's the legal decision about the HUCO decision and that meaningful consultation. So the Special Education Services, a manual for policy, procedures, and guidelines, which was published in September 2009, says that you don't have to be a member of the school-based team in order to participate in the IEP meeting. So who is on the team? It says the school-based team includes, people like the principal and the learning assistants or resource teacher. And then it says, on a case-by-case basis, as needed to plan for individual students, the team should also include the student's referring teacher and involve the parent, the student, and an appropriate district resource staff, and representatives from community services, regional authorities, or from other ministries. So that could include a social worker, it could include a behavior consultant, a speech-language pathologist. They're all members of the team. And the important thing about this is that, for a child with autism to be successful, because it's a social communication disorder, and because kids with autism have this uncanny ability to be able to do things in one environment and not in another, it's really important that you get that cross-fertilization between school and home, right? And that's what good collaboration looks like. Here's another one that is really difficult. We have set the IEP goals for your child low because we want her to experience success. Now, anyone have an idea how they would answer to that?
The way to success is not by setting the bar low. It's by merely seeing where people can stand themselves first and then seeing how far we can get from there.
I think that's quite a good answer. So it's not by setting the bar low, it's seeing where they are, it's taking data. And one of the things we talked about earlier was doing assessments of the child's ability, right? Where the child has weaknesses that we can support them in. Instead of just, it's not just having huge expectations of that child, but where can we scaffold them up? Where are they now? If they're reading, if we've got them in a grade 4 reading class and they're reading at the level of a grade 1 student, that's not going to be very meaningful, right? And if they're actually able to read at a grade 6 level, but we have them in the grade 1 reading class, that's not going to be very helpful. And if they're in the grade 6 reading class, but they understand very little because they have no social comprehension of why people do what they do, that's not very helpful. So there are all kinds of things that families need to take into consideration. And often people on school teams say these kinds of things. They think they're being helpful, and we get very frustrated as parents. We have to be careful not to jump down their throats, because it's really, I know for me, a lot of these things sort of press my buttons. And one of the important things to do is to realize that it's not actually that people don't set out to drive us insane. And so we don't want to act like crazies when someone says something, but we have to think about it and document it.